Rhythm Heaven Groove is absolutely incredible, and is now my personal game of the year. It feels like the series picked up where it left off, and the rhythm games are just as fun as the previous entries. It's also loaded with content, as there's 80 solo rhythm games, 30 multiplayer rhythm games, and extra modes on top of that. However, with any game that I really get into or put a lot of hours into, I do find a few small issues. No game is truly perfect, and I feel like having fair criticism of a game is a healthy part of being a fan of it. So in this video, I will be going through some of my nitpicks with Rhythm Heaven Groove. And keep in mind, none of these issues or critiques that I have are really major issues, they're really just small things that I wanted to point out. And the first one is that not every remix has a theme. This is one that a lot of people have been talking about, and is probably the most notable one. If you didn't know already, each Rhythm Heaven game starting with DS had a unique visual theme for its remixes. For example, Fever's Remix 1 was themed around a tropical vacation. But Groove only had a few remixes that were themed. I have heard a few people say that there are no themed remixes in Groove at all, which is misinformation. There are about 7-ish remixes that are themed in some shape or form in Groove. And I do love the themes that are here, but I wish there were more of them. There are twice as many remixes as the previous Rhythm Heaven games, so it's understandable that not all of them are themed, but I don't think having like 10 to 15 remixes being themed would be too much to ask for. A lot of the sequels in Groove already have a distinct visual style, and the art style is fairly simple in this game, so I don't think it would have taken that much time or effort to incorporate just a few more themes. And the next nitpick I have is the weird placement of some rhythm games in the main campaign. While the vast majority of games have an appropriate difficulty for when you play them, there are a few games that feel out of place for the difficulty curve. Some early games, like Hop and Slide, are pretty difficult, while a couple later ones, like Synchro Wings and its sequel, are incredibly easy. It honestly would have been much more fitting if these games were swapped. My only guess for why they placed Synchro Wings towards the end is that they wanted to have a slower paced game to almost act as a bit of downtime before the final remixes. Though I don't think that's entirely necessary, considering how there's things like extra games and rhythm toys that serve that same purpose. I just wish things were a little more consistent in this game. And the next nitpick that I have is that the game leans a bit too much on the D-pad inputs for a lot of games. While I do like the fact that Groove mixes things up and allows for more than 2 button inputs, it can get a bit confusing sometimes. Especially on remixes where you could go from one D-pad input to another, it may be easy to forget. So I think it would have been nice to have a setting to allow for any D-pad input to work for games that utilize the D-pad. I also think an accessibility option that either displays the button on screen or a distinct audio cue associated with that button on the D-pad would have been nice for people. While this is something that I don't personally have too much of an issue with, I do think more options would only help, since the main point of challenge in these rhythm games is maintaining the rhythm rather than memorizing specific button inputs. Another thing is that this game doesn't show a specific score out of 100. This was a feature that Megamix added, and was a good indicator for exactly how well you did. So if you thought you did well, but only got a good or an okay, rather than an amazing or superb, you would see how far off you were, and would give you a good idea of how you could improve in your next run-through. I kinda understand why they removed it in Groove, because it may dissuade newer players from getting into Rhythm Heaven for the first time, since a numbered grading system can seem a bit intimidating and daunting, especially with how challenging Rhythm Heaven can be. But this could have easily been something that could have been optional, or enabled in settings. And finally, this one is less of a nitpick towards the game itself, but is something that I really want Nintendo to do, and that is, release this soundtrack physically. I know it's likely coming to Nintendo Music at some point, since it already got a special release there, but this soundtrack is absolutely incredible and so memorable, I would love to own a CD or vinyl record of it. We've seen Breath of the Wild, the Mario movies, Xenoblade, and Super Mario RPG get physical soundtrack releases of their soundtracks, so it's not outside the realm of possibility. Especially since some of the examples that I mentioned fall under different record labels. And since Nintendo is working with Sunku for Groove, I think there's a chance that it could happen at some point. But this isn't something that's super necessary, nor affects any aspect of the game at all, it's just something that I really want to see at some point, and is worth mentioning. But anyways, those are some of the nitpicks that I have with Rhythm Heaven Groove. So while I do find this game absolutely incredible, and is already becoming one of my all-time favorite Switch 1 games, there are a few things that I am critical of. But let me know your critiques with Rhythm Heaven Groove down in the comments. And thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!